Haunted paintings hanging on your wall. Are they remnants of the ancient painters who drew them, or are they objects possessed by spirits? Either way, grab a blanket, turn off your lights for stories about haunted paintings and what happens when you decide to take them down. The painting. This event occurred prior to my birth in 1976. It is not a first-hand account, so I will just tell you what my mother told me. In the early 1970s, my parents bought a small house in Nebraska. It was their second or third house, I'm not sure. When they moved in, there was a painting from the early 1900s hanging on the wall of the house. It was the only thing in the house, no furniture, no appliances, nothing. My mother told me that the portrait bared a striking resemblance to my father, but as if he were an old man. At the time, my father was in his early 30s. The painting made my mother understandably uneased. My parents took the painting down and stored it in the basement. They lived in that house for a few years before deciding to move outside of town to an acreage. This was before I was born, and my oldest brothers were preteens. During the moving process, they discovered the painting that had been there when they first moved in. Neither of them really wanted the painting because it unnerved them both. They decided to put the portrait back on the wall where they originally found it. They completed packing for the move and never gave it a second thought. Once they arrived at their new acreage, they started to unpack and move into their new house. When they entered the house during the move, the portrait of the painting was hanging on the wall of their bedroom. They were quite vexed at this occurrence. They ended up taking the painting and storing it in the attic. It has been there ever since. I have never laid eyes on it, and I dread the day that I do. Haunted painting? Not too long ago, my aunt who lives in Birmingham, England, purchased an oil painting by Sepp Milner. I do not know this artist, but I believe my aunt bought the work in Holland. Anyways, ever since she put it up in her office at home, strange things started happening. It began when my aunt started noticing weird lights in her office at night. Initially, she assumed they were just the headlights of passing cars or something, but the lights also appeared when the blinds were closed. Her 10-year-old son, Simon, began to complain as well, telling her that he could see blue flashes of light in the room. Despite a relentless search, no explanation could be found. The source of these flashes remained a mystery. Oddly, my aunt's clients started complaining as well. Several visitors to her office told her that they felt like they were being watched. They didn't mention the painting specifically, but stated that there was something behind them, a presence. The only thing behind them, however, was the picture on the wall. A neighbor, who is supposed to be as sensitive, eventually claimed the painting possessed by a potent energy field. He said the energy wasn't harmful, just very strong. Eventually, my aunt made a photo of the work. The image doesn't show the lights or the flashes, but there is what is called an orb in the left corner. I don't know what to make of it, or what these orbs are supposed to signal. Does anyone have any ideas? Bad memories at Nana's house. Everything I'm about to tell you is completely true, and yet to this day even I question myself about it. So here it goes. When I was 6 years old, My parents went away for their anniversary, and my little brother and myself stayed at my Nana's house. My grandfather had passed away a few years before, so Nana enjoyed the company. Now my brother and myself are among the youngest of Nana's grandchildren. The oldest grandchild at the time was 30, and the youngest 5 weeks. My point is Josh, my brother, and I grew up hearing heaps of spooky stories about a particular painting at Nana's. This painting wasn't hideously ugly, but it wasn't pretty either. It was of an old Aboriginal elder, from the shoulders up. He was known as the Big Nose Man. Kind of self-explanatory. My cousins all used to say that the eyes followed you when you were in the room. Now I don't remember Nana and Papa's old house, but apparently the Big Nose Man was hung in Papa's study, and their dog refused to go anywhere near that room. So in Nana's new house, in her sewing room hangs the ugly painting of the Big Nose Man. My brother and I stayed in the guest room opposite the sewing room for the week. On the third night at Nana's, we went and took the dog for a walk. We had gotten into the driveway when I realized that I had forgotten my hat. Nana told me to quickly run and grab one of hers. It was in the sewing room, so I ran back inside and went straight into the sewing room. Not a problem, without thinking anything about it. And then it suddenly hit me. Behind me is the Big Nose Man painting, and within seconds of me thinking, the door slammed shut. I spun around to the door and saw the ankle shadow on the other side. I calmed down then, as it must have been Josh or Nana, right? I turned towards the window, which overlooks the driveway, and saw Nana and Josh with the dog waiting for me at the gate. My stomach dropped and I screamed bloody murder. The room's temperature dropped in a big way. Then the Big Nose Man painting shook violently on the wall. So hard it fell off onto the floor, I burst into tears and called for my mom and dad. The next thing I know, Nana is at the door calling my name. She pushed the door open and picked me up. I have never been so scared in my life. She has since burned the painting. Apparently there weren't any weird screams coming from it as it burned, just a funny smell and odd-colored flames. Nana said it was from the paint, and not to read into it. Thoughts would be very much appreciated, guys. Thanks for reading. Grandfather painted a creepy picture. Many years ago, when I was a kid, I used to visit my grandparents, who lived 2 doors down the same street. They owned a 3-story row home, and on the top floor was a small bedroom, where my grandfather had his art studio. The house was filled with his paintings, large and small. He painted people, animals, and landscapes. He was very well known in the Philly art scene. Anyways, in the 70s, he painted a portrait of a man who resembled a famous politician. The painting was the only one he had ever painted like this, and we hated it. The reason? Well, no matter where you went in the room, the eyes followed you. My cousins and aunts all experienced this as well. Even if you walked across the room and entered another, the eyes would still follow you if there was no obstruction. The painting freaked us all out. It was that bad that we begged him to move it. That's when the bad stuff began to happen. Basically, everyone felt ill or got hurt or even lost a job. When the painting was brought back out, things returned to normal. I never knew what was up with that. The painting's vibe wasn't evil, it was something else. I wish I had a picture to upload. It was weird. My extended family who own the painting now insist the painting stay in the common area of the house, uncovered or obstructed.